From the AM/FM 24/7 radio network, ClearPoint Financial Solutions presents the Small Business Administration Award-winning School for Startups Radio, where we talk all things small business and entrepreneurship. Now, here's your host, the guy that believes that anyone can be an entrepreneur, because entrepreneurship is not about creativity, risk, or passion, Jim Beach.
And welcome back to School for Startups Radio. Again, thank you so much for being with us today. I am very excited and honored to introduce you to our next guest. His name is Mike Zisman. He is the president of Golf Genius Software. We will learn all about it. He has an incredibly interesting and prestigious background. He was a professor at MIT, started a software company in the late 70s, and eventually ended up as the CEO of Lotus. You all remember Lotus 123 and Lotus Notes. That company was sold for $3 billion to IBM, and he was a vice president of strategy there. He was then with the Internet Capital Group. You may remember them. They were a venture capital company in the internet space, which was very, very powerful back in the mid 2000s, I remember. And since then, he has been on the board of directors of several other companies. And about 7 years ago, he started with Golf Genius. Mike, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Tell us about Golf Genius.
Golf Genius is a software company, as you said, that I founded in January of 2009. I had one of the things I have not done well in my life is retiring. I tried it twice and was not very successful at it. So after doing all the things you mentioned a moment ago, I started this company. For me, it was a chance to bring together 40 years of experience in enterprise information technology, a passion for golf, and also an opportunity to finally use the skills I learned as a PhD student in operations research and scheduling, and originally focused on buddy golf trips. 16 guys go off to play 6 rounds of golf, and there's some special scheduling and tournament problems to be dealt with, and that evolved into servicing golf leagues, and that evolved into really what we do today is provide kind of very high-end tournament software to private clubs, golf courses, resorts, associations, literally all over the world. It's mushroomed into a wonderful business. Well, totally virtual, I would add. No one cares. People often ask me, they say, Mike, you started a company in 79 and a company in 2009. What's different? And I say the fundamental thing that's different is location doesn't matter. That just doesn't matter where people are anymore.
All right, so when you say that this is virtual, what do you mean? It allows people to play on different continents and to compare each other or compete at the same time, or virtual and just where the software lives?
I guess in those two cases, we're referring to something different. So yes, we do have cases where people use our software to run tournaments across multiple courses. Use our live scoring, so you can literally, on your iPhone or Android, be entering the scores for your foursome and look at the leaderboard, which may include people on a completely different golf course. And the software is totally virtual, and it all runs in the cloud. One of the decisions I made. I'm a geek. I'm a certified geek. I love technology. I freely admit it. I love everything about computer systems. So when I started the company, on day one, we were in the cloud. So it was cloud computing, was very, very new then, but I understood where it was going to go. I was referring to the company itself. So the company has no office.
Okay.
We are spread out around the globe. I often joke around. Our letterhead will say 311 Orchard Way, Suite 700. Suite 700 is my daughter's bedroom. Right? So, and our customers don't care. It's amazing to me in that our customers honestly don't care because the software is all accessed in the cloud. Wherever it doesn't matter where in the world you are. But the company, we have employees all over the country, and all of our development is done by a small company in Romania that it's a separate company. It only works for us, but my day usually starts on Skype talking to the people in Romania.
Interesting. Can you give us an idea of the scale, the scope of the company? I don't need any private information, anything proprietary. How many employees, revenue, just something to see how big it is.
28 employees. We don't disclose our revenue, but we are in several hundred clubs in the U.S. By clubs, I mean private clubs or public courses. We're in the major resorts, like if you're a golfer, you would recognize names like Bandon Dunes and Pinehurst and Desert Mountain
Sure.
and Reynolds Lake Oconee. So all the major resorts use our software for both group trips and conference business and stuff like that. We do all of the Troon facility. Troon's a large management company in the golf space. We do all the Troon facilities in the Mideast. We have a customer in Russia. It's hard to think about people playing golf in a club in Russia, but it's actually a Troon facility in Russia. We have customers in Australia. We have a lot of customers in the UK, obviously with Scotland. And our what I call our consumer product, a guy who doesn't belong to a club or a gal who just forms a golf league, 50 people go out and play different courses. That software is used, last we looked, in 52 different countries. So it's interesting. One of the things I find fascinating is it's a global world. Someone in Singapore Googles golf league software, and we'll show up, and they go, okay, great, let's go use that. And people just think nothing of signing up, and if it doesn't work, you stop paying for it. So there's not a lot of risk. It's pay as you go, and so it's very viral. And I got just an email 10 minutes ago from a guy. Gee, I use your software at this great thing in Oregon. Very, very cool. I'm going to Bandon Dunes for a trip. I see Bandon's a customer. Can we use your software at Bandon? So it's a large part of our growth, like many viral instances, is someone comes to an event, uses our software, and then takes it back to their club, and then the club becomes a customer.
And is the primary function of the software to keep score? Is it do educational things? Does it help with the course? Does it do some of the caddy type instruction type things?
Well, we're not. No, those are all good things, but mainly. So we would fall into what would be called the tournament management space. So our particular expertise is allowing you to create the tee sheet. You got 120 golfers showing up. How do you put them into foursomes? And by the way, they're playing 3 days. How do you organize those foursomes over 3 days so people don't play with each other, multiple times and stuff like that? But the key thing, and so we have a very sophisticated scheduling program that I actually wrote. So I spent a year of my life building a very complex scheduling program. The beauty of it is that the customer doesn't know and need not know when they click a button. That software is running on 10 very large servers at Amazon and may look at 50 million possible schedules in 3 seconds.
You are a geek.
I am a geek. I'm certified. I'm an old geek. But the key thing is the tournaments. People want to play lots of different tournaments, and we have a really, really neat way of allowing people to define a huge range of tournaments, and then we do all the scoring. They may be entering scores on their phones and looking at live leaderboards. We integrate into the member website, so someone can just log. Like I'm a member at Marion Golf Club. I log in at Marion. I go to golf. I go to men's golf. I go to Saturday golf, and now I'm right into Golf Genius, looking at our websites and stuff like that. Our tagline, which really evolved over time, is less work, more fun, more revenue. Less work for the professional staff in setting up events, more fun for the golfers through things like live scoring and event websites, and very importantly, more revenue for the operator, because most golf courses have charity outings or corporate outings, and with our software they can charge more because they're delivering more capability. We fully expect our customers to generate revenue 6 to 10 times what they're paying us per year. So we're a cost of goods. We're a cost of goods. We're not an expense. You're going to go out and what we call upsell an outing. For another $15 a player, we're going to give you live scoring and TV leaderboards and lots of space for sponsor content. If you're a charity, we have a piece of collateral right now. We have a quote from someone, live scoring sponsors paying $25,000. Well, the typical charity event, unfortunately, the average across the entire country is you make $5,000. Makes you wonder why bother. But a reasonably run golf outing may make $70,000 or $80,000. So if you can add $20,000 or $30,000, $40,000 to that, that's a huge uptick, which is what we facilitate.
All right. Well, very impressive. I hadn't thought of all of the charity opportunities. That's really cool, Mike.
There are several 100,000 charity golf events per year in the United States. It's
Really?
amazing.
Several
Yeah,
hundred thousand.
about 180,000. Everything from American Cancer Society. It's huge. They have them in every city. But the sad part of the business is you see lots of tournaments that are fundraisers for a young child with leukemia. That's the sad part. A lot
Yes.
of fundraisers raising money for sick kids.
Right.
But we can help them raise money. That's the good part.
That is the good part. Yes. That is
Yeah.
exciting. And would this work for other sports eventually as well? Will the same decision science technology expand into other things?
It absolutely is applicable. I get asked regularly, do you think of taking this into other sports? And my answer is it absolutely applies. It applies to soccer, it applies to tennis, particularly the scheduling software, which is very, very sophisticated. Our expertise is in golf, and your show's about entrepreneurs. I think most entrepreneurs, believe in focus, 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 right? So our focus is golf. We would love to license the technology to people who have a focus on tennis, 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 or soccer, soccer, soccer. But, we have an enormous amount of work that we can still do in the golf industry and, get queries from time to time. But the technology has not yet been applied to other sports.
And what percent saturation do you believe you have? If there's 180,000 tournaments a year just in the charity space,
Yeah.
where are you in
Well,
terms
we
of
have
saturation?
minuscule. The way we think about it, our prime. When I wake up every morning, what I'm focused on at the top of my list is how many private clubs are using our software. And by the end of this year, we will be in 400 in the U.S. of 4,500. So I have about 10% share in the U.S. You're never going to get 100% share,
Right,
but
of course not.
we could easily get 50% share.
So this, when you first think about it, you're like golf software. Okay. Doesn't seem hugely sexy, but this could become $1 billion a year revenue company, couldn't it?
No, 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 no. I wish it could. No, I didn't. I didn't. I how do I put it? No, this is not a $1 billion company. I mean,
Okay.
I have no dreams of that. But this is a tens of millions of dollar company that would be valued at 5 or 6 times that revenue flow.
Right.
The nature of subscription software is you have such a backlog of business. A traditional software company, when I was in the industry, in traditional licensed software, a company typically would sell for 2 to 3 times revenue, or 20 to 25 times earnings, right?
Right.
In the subscription business, bear in mind you're financing your customer. Instead of getting a $250,000 sale up front, you're getting so much a year forever. So there's a crossover point by which you're far better off, but you're investing in your customers. That's the reality of it. But because you have this very large backlog or book of business, these companies tend to sell for 4 or 5 or 6 times revenue. So it could be a substantial exit. I look at companies all the time, and entrepreneurs do, of companies that have raised 50, 100, $1 billion. And the more money you raise, kind of the deeper the hole you dug, the more successful it has to be. And first of all that money is going to get out first before the entrepreneur gets anything, right? So, in my case, one of the things that I've learned is it takes time to learn an industry. We've invested 100,000 hours in just software development over 8 years. If someone would have handed me $50 million 9 years ago, I would have wasted most of it. And that's what happens to too many companies. You have to have the patience to get something out there. It's called minimally viable product. Watch how customers use it and improve, move into adjacent markets and things like that. So we've been able to do all this with, an investment, well under $10 million.
And you spent a whole year being a total geek.
I did. That was a good year.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. When you left MIT and went off to become a real businessman, a real entrepreneur, did they take your Wharton PhD away? Were people mad at you? I'm being a little bit facetious here, but it's very rare to have a MIT professor go out and be as incredibly successful in business as you have been. You know,
Well, so I would say MIT is a very special case in that, particularly in the technology area, there actually is a lot of movement from academic to industry, and a lot of those people come back to academics. But, in the computer science area, I mean, all sorts of companies are started by MIT professors. Typically, they will start the company but stay at the university, build a management team. In my case, I recognized very quickly that academics wasn't right. I loved my days of earning a PhD. I loved the science, the operations research. Interestingly enough, I wrote a dissertation. My goal was just to graduate. The dissertation is considered a seminal piece of work in its field. It's referenced thousands and thousands of times. So it turned out to be a really, important contribution in the field I was in. But when I got to MIT, I realized that while I love the teaching, and I still do a fair amount of teaching, I just wanted to be an entrepreneur. And after 2 years at MIT, moved back to Philly and started my first company.
but for a professor and even for an entrepreneur, you've exhibited amazing management abilities. What makes you a better manager than most? And don't tell me you're not, because we've proven that you
Well,
are.
well, I would say two things. One is um, I spent several years between Wharton and MIT, which are management schools. So just wandering around the halls, you're going to pick up a lot of management. And so that's point one. Point two is I tell people it's amazing how focused you get when it's your own money, right? So, in the early days of SoftSwitch, my first company, the first 5 years I self-funded. And then even I used to say to that, look, for 15 years, every day I put 100% of my net worth on the table, right? That was it. And so you reach a point where it's like, you damn well better make this successful, and you got a lot into this. And you do learn how to organize. There was a guy at Wharton who put it very well one time. He says, I realized that I can probably do the work of 10 people, but I can't do the work of 100 people. Now, he was a very, very smart guy, and he came to realize you can't build a company around one person. When I got to Lotus, I often talk about this. One of the first, I went to a company meeting, and they had this typical motivational video. I'll never forget it. And you hear the music come on, and then the camera starts panning over the Great Pyramids. And then the voiceover comes in and simply says, "No one did this alone." And that's what I love.
Yes.
No one did this alone. The really important things in life get done by groups of people, which I love. Getting the right, right now in Golf Genius, I, after 7 years, really have the right team. The team that these guys can all, and not only guys and gals, can work with each other. We understand the division of labor, who has to do what. We're all very committed to getting the job done. And, when you're managing really, really smart people, I had this conversation last night. I say, really what a manager does is hold up a mirror to someone and say, are you sure you believe that? You really think you can do that in 3 months for $1 million, right? A lot of it is just helping people self-reflect. What's realistic and get it done, and making hard choices. I was talking to someone last week, and one of the things I'm very proud of in Golf Genius, we're in our 8th year. We have not had one single voluntary separation, but we've hired twice as many people as we have today. So we have had only 50% of our people have been successful, which is actually a pretty good hit rate, but not a single resignation. And when you can create that kind of an environment where people know they have to really be motivated, inspired, and very importantly, the ability to work with other people, it's pretty amazing what you can accomplish. I used to say, my job, I always sort of the companies, you got all these people, and I envision back of a picnic and a tug of war, right? Well, if I have half the people on one side of the rope and half the people on the other side of the rope, and they're killing themselves pulling, but the rope's not going anywhere, that's my fault. Right? That's my fault. My job is to get everyone pulling on the same side of the rope and make sure there's not a big lake behind them. And when you look at it that way, it's about, getting the job done. When I look at CEOs, having been on a lot of boards, I really come down and say there's two kinds of CEOs. There's sales animals, can be very effective, right? Sell, very outgoing, very extroverted. And then there's what I call the general manager, strategist, integrator. which tend to be more introverted people. That's obviously what I am. And you can be one or the other, but then you have to surround yourself with the skills that complement you.
What's your favorite piece of entrepreneurial advice?
I'll say it and modify it. It's the famous Winston Churchill line: "Never, ever give up. Never, ever." Now, the other side of that is at some point you have to say, "This dog don't hunt." Right? You have to, and so I said to someone the other day. I said the unsung hero at Golf Genius, and we will be very successful. The unsung hero is my wife. Because twice I said to her, "I'm done. This is bad for my health. It's bad for our wealth. It's bad for our marriage." And she simply said, "Mike, you got too many people depending on you. You can't give up."
Maybe she
And
just likes you out of the house better, Mike.
but I work in my house.
Ah, that's right. We forgot. You work in your daughter's bedroom.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
sweet
so
700.
everybody.
I forgot.
Here's the point. Everybody is I say, as an entrepreneur, the highs are real high, the lows are real low, and you have plenty of each every single day. We all know that as entrepreneurs. And when you hit the lows, most of the time you can pick yourself up. I've learned to say to myself, you know what, I'll feel better tomorrow. This too shall pass. And when highs are really high, you go like, when you think nothing can go right, something will. When you think nothing can go wrong, something will. But you need, you need someone who can pick you up every so often. And at the same time, there are times when you have to say, you know what, this isn't going to work. That's the hardest thing an entrepreneur faces, is to be incredibly persistent, but know when it's time to, knock on a different door.
Well, as a 25-year entrepreneur myself, I must say the entrepreneurial spouse is a very, very unique person. And you need to pick
Yep.
that person very carefully.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right, because, being an entrepreneur takes an enormous amount of energy. It takes a long time. Most successful entrepreneurs will say, if I had any idea it would have been this hard, I wouldn't have done it. Well, thank God people don't know that, or all the great inventions wouldn't have happened, right? You get into it and you go, okay, I'm here, I'm going to make this work. But it can be, a long and arduous and sometimes lonely journey. So I completely agree with you that you need a spouse, or a spouse, a partner, a friend. You need someone who can take that journey with you.
Mike, how can we learn more about you, follow your teachings, and most importantly, get Golf Genius at our clubs?
Well, we'd love to help you do that. Our website is simply golfgenius.com. It's very informed. You can go as deep as you want. We have a small sales force in the United States. One of the things that's interesting, I failed to neglect, I think one of the key things that's allowed us to be successful is almost half of the people in the company are PGA professionals. Right, so half the company is I'll call it geeks, and half are PGA professionals that have incredibly deep knowledge of how things really work. So every one of our sales force is a PGA professional, and except for one individual, everyone in our support team is a PGA professional, and that's made a huge difference. So it's a great blend of that. It allows us to really, it's a very, there's a very arcane language in the world of golf, and you need to understand it. But anyone who's interested, go to our website and, click on the buttons to learn more, and someone will get in touch with you. Golf is a wonderful game. I recommend it. It's a great family game. It's a fantastic family game. My wife and I and my two boys play golf a lot. My wife and I play a lot of golf together. I think couples golf is it's just an enormous amount of fun. I'd recommend it to anyone.
And what's your best score?
Well, I will put it this way. I tell people I'll say two things, and since and let me preface by saying I'm Jewish. So I say I'm a very passionate golfer. Don't confuse that with a good golfer, and show me a Jew with a low handicap, and I'll show you someone who's probably not telling the truth. Right? It's just not in our gene pool. That's not true. There are some very, very good Jewish golfers, but no, my best score is in the 80s.
That was quite a preamble for that answer there, Mike.
Yes,
Mike
And it's
Zisman.
not getting any better. At my age, it's not getting any better, that's for sure.
But it's still fun for you.
I love it. I love the game of golf. I love everything about it. I've been fortunate to belong to a number of golf clubs, and it's a wonderful game. I would encourage it to anyone. It's a very honorable game. It's a game of honor. Right? It's self-trust. You're the referee. There's no one calling shots on you. It's you. And the greatest way, I would say to anyone, the best way to learn about someone is to go play golf with them.
Best golf movie?
Probably Caddyshack. There's a lot of them out
What about
there.
Bagger Vance? I got to say Bagger Vance.
You're probably right. Yeah, there's some great golf books. I will tell you that. There are some superb golf books that talk a lot about life. I have a library of some of those, and it's a wonderful game. Large part of my life. It's a large part of my social life. It's a large part of my wife. As I said, my wife and I spend a lot of time playing golf together.
Mike Zisman, thank you so much for being with us today. Great stuff.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
And we are done for the day. I hear the background music playing, which means we got to get out of here. I want to thank Mike and Barbara for being with us today, and you for listening. And we'll be back tomorrow with more great School for Startups radio. Bye now.